What is up, guys? And today we're going to be talking about the 2024 Nevada primary and caucuses. We'll be talking about both the Republican side and the Democratic side. So, if you guys don't know, this year's kind of weird. Just like with Michigan, Nevada is doing something totally different that's never been done before. Michigan's doing a hybrid system where they're doing a primary and a caucus, and they're splitting up the delegates between the two. Nevada's doing something similar, but not exactly that. They're having a separate primary and just a separate caucus. So on February 6th, tomorrow, we're going to be having the Republican primary, and the only one on the ballot is Nikki Haley, and then there's this other option called none of these candidates. Then 2 days later, we're going to be on the 8th, we're going to have the Republican caucus, and on the same day as the Republican primary, we're going to have the Democratic primary, which actually has delegates. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Nevada. So for decades, Nevada has used the caucus system for selecting their presidential candidate, but in 2021, the state's Democratic-controlled legislature passed a law requiring primary elections whenever more than one candidate is on the ballot. But the 2021 law contained a big loophole, which is that there has to be a primary, but ultimately the Republican Party decides how the delegates are awarded. So the state GOP took advantage of this loophole. So now Nevada will have a state-run primary and a party-run caucus. The Nevada GOP has said that the state's 26 delegates will be awarded to the caucus winner, and the primary is non-binding, meaning that there's no delegates at stake. So Trump and Ryan Binkley will be the only ones competing in the Republican caucus. If you guys remember, Ryan Binkley's the pastor. He did somewhat okay in Iowa. He got close to 1%. He didn't do so great in New Hampshire, but he's really the only official candidate still left. In the caucus, Haley is the only candidate taking part in the primary. To be considered for the caucus, a $55,000 participation fee was required, and the Nevada GOP has said any candidate running in the primary cannot be considered for the caucuses. While Haley is the only candidate left in the primary, Pence and Scott had also at one point had their name on the ballot for the primary instead of the caucus. So Haley is not guaranteed to win, even though she's really the only main candidate left. Like I said before, there will be another option on the ballot. Quote, none of these candidates is the option. The state GOP, the state Republican Party, is encouraging voters to select the none of these candidates options simply to stop any kind of momentum that Haley can get from winning this primary. So that's pretty much the whole point. So some of you guys might be scratching your head. Why would Nikki Haley opt to go for the primary with no delegates instead of the caucus? Well, that's a very good question. I had the same thought process when I originally came across this discovery. So here's the idea, guys. It's real simple. The Haley team has come to the conclusion that she could not win Nevada, which I totally agree with. Trump, this is his biggest lead of all the four early states by far. So they made a smart calculation that putting Haley on the ballot from the primary without Trump would be the smartest way to go. So essentially, they are sacrificing a couple of delegates for momentum. So the idea is, let's sacrifice the couple of delegates we may have gotten from the caucus, be the only one on the ballot in the primary. That way, she's bound to win. That way, she can go into her home state of South Carolina with a little bit of momentum behind her back, and she can turn around and say, hey, everybody, look, I won the primary. And then people who aren't up to their neck in politics will just read the headline and go, oh, wow, Nikki Haley won the primary. I guess we're all going to hop on the Nikki Haley train. So it's deceitful, but it is smart strategy. I will give them that. So now, if we look at history, Trump did win the Nevada caucus back in 2016 with 46% of the vote. So let's take a look at some of the polling here. There isn't a whole lot of polling, really, for all of this. The Democratic side, the caucus, the primary. The last time Nevada was polled was January 8th. And at that point, the other candidates were still in the race. Trump had 69%. I can't find any polling on the Republican primary by itself. So I'm going to just have to go with my gut on that one. The only primary polling I could find for the Democratic side was this one. So we're not going to be doing the prediction purely based off of polling, but we are going to use it as a reference. So this is the map for the primary. So we have Iowa and New Hampshire filled in. Trump with 32 delegates, Haley with 17. So in my notes here, I'm expecting Haley to win the Nevada primary, obviously. But there is a possibility that this option for none of these candidates could get garner a little bit of support. I'm sure some MAGA guys will show up in protest of Haley because she's gaining a lot of opposition within the Republican primary with her attacks on Donald Trump. So I could see some people showing up for that option. But in my notes here, I have Haley getting 95% and none of these candidates getting 5. So she will win the Nevada primary there, quote unquote win. And as you can see, it does nothing for the delegate count because it's non-binding. So now we can head over to the Democratic side. So as you guys know, the Democratic side has switched up the order. They were trying to give more diversity and more say to minorities within the Democratic Party, so they wanted South Carolina to go first, but New Hampshire had a law that they had to be the first primary. Joe Biden originally wasn't on the ballot. Then they scrambled at the last second to do a write-in campaign, and he ultimately won. And then he won South Carolina a couple days ago. He swept all the delegates, swept all 55 delegates. It was a complete blowout. He got like 96% of the vote. And he's crushing in the polling. The one poll that we looked at, Dean Phillips is not on the ballot in Nevada. He did not meet the deadline. So it's just going to be Biden and Marianne facing off. And if you guys remember back in 2020, this was actually a state that Biden lost. Bernie won Nevada. So Nevada seems more open to the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party. But nonetheless, after what we saw in New Hampshire, the Democratic Party is backing the incumbent. So I am predicting Biden will win here. Marianne's hovering about 1 or 2% in the polls. But I'm going to be a little bit generous to her just because of the Bernie bros out there. They're if they show up, they're going to go for Marianne. So I'm going to give her a solid 3%, 2%. We'll go with 5% maybe. So that's a realistic situation. And Marianne would get 2 delegates. Biden would be at 89. Then if we want to move out to the Republican caucus. Oh, and by the way, in order to get any delegates, so I do have Marianne getting 5% of the vote, but I don't know how to fix this problem with this website. That's not actually enough to qualify for delegates. You need 15% of the vote statewide or 15% in a congressional district to qualify for any delegates. So even though she garners 5% of the vote, it would add up to no delegates. I don't know how to fix this. YA PMS needs to probably fix that. But nonetheless, let's move on to the Republican side. So Trump and Ryan Binkley facing off. So if we scraped up all the other candidates and tried to decide where their vote's going to go, Christie was gaining about 3% of the vote. And if we just say that all of that vote is strictly not going to go to Trump, it's the never Trumper vote, that would put Ryan Binkley at about 3%, which for the Republican side, you need 4% to qualify for delegates. But, you know, who's to say there's not 1% of the Republican Party in Nevada who may just like Ryan Binkley. So I'm predicting Trump will get 96% of the vote, and Binkley will get about 3 to 4%, and maybe even get himself 1 delegate. Good for him. He's a good guy. He's not going to win, but you know, that's an accomplishment. That's a nice thing to pat yourself on the back for, getting a delegate within a primary process for President of the United States. Who else can say that they've ever gotten even 1 delegate for President of the United States? So pat on the back to Ryan Binkley, but Trump is going to take the state of Nevada by a concisive margin, which puts him at 57 delegates, Haley 17, Binkley at 1. So you guys, that's the whole spiel with Nevada primary and caucus and why they have both. And those are my predictions for all 3. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tomorrow is the primary, of course, like I said. So me and Psycho Dad will be doing a live coverage of that. So make sure you guys are tuning in to watch that. It's a grand old time. We kick back, relax, we watch the results come in, we analyze the results as they come in, we chat with you guys. It's just overall a fun time. So make sure you guys are there. We look forward to seeing you, and thanks for watching this video.